I am Becky Magnolia, and this is Living Weird. The Living Weird podcast is an exploration into our true selves. Together we honor the unique paths laid out for each and every one of us in what I call the cosmic weird wide web. I talk with creators, artists, elders, mystics, and healers about their personal journeys while sharing my own midlife adventure as I do the work that so many of us are doing these days, exploring, growing, and shape-shifting into exactly who we're meant to be. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Living Weird. Life is getting fun and weird and exciting, and I just want to record this before sharing with you my interview for today. So, a few days ago, my brother Josh was up visiting my mom in Wisconsin, and he found a letter from Laing, a very radical psychiatrist known in the late 60s, early 70s for his radical approach to psychiatry, not treating schizophrenics with medicine, but rather bringing them into a community and equalizing that relationship between the psychiatrist and the patient, and seeing psychosis as a reaction, and neurosis as well, as a reaction to an environment that's not manageable, that it's actually a healthy reaction to it. So my dad apparently back, I think it was 68, before I was born, reached out to Laing and said, "Hey, can I come out there and study under you?" My dad must have been a psychiatric resident at that time. And Laing wrote back. They corresponded a couple times and said, "Yeah, come on out. Here's the times that you can come out." And it's just so fascinating because, you fast forward 15 years and my dad's got me on a diagnosis and putting me on meds and, pegging me later on in life as being manic and all of this stuff, and just kind of saying that Laing was wrong and, psychosis is just psychosis and all of this stuff. So I'm trying to piece this mystery together. And the fun and weird and kind of magical web-like connection to this is this interview I had yesterday with Mike O'Mealy, who, is the farthest thing from all of this kind of depth psychology stuff that I study. Mike is just a guy, he's just a really great guy who, went on this path of sobriety and has been working with teenage boys with profound autism, kids who are considered really at risk. He works with the most dangerous of kids, the most PTSD of PTSD kids. And one of the things you'll hear in this interview is he, after going through his own sobriety, his own path, he didn't use AA, he literally did his own walkabout therapy. During the pandemic, he just decided to go clean and went out onto Rattlesnake Island, one of my favorite places, and just explored and took photographs and transformed himself, and then came back and brought the medicine that he gained, and I say medicine loosely, the grace he gained, the wisdom he gained from, having to really look at himself and manage and look at his ADHD, look at his depression from a place that, from a raw place with no alcohol. And so you'll hear his journey, and the way that he works with boys is very similar to the way that Laing worked with his patients. And it's that idea of we're all a little neurodivergent. We use that word now. And it's us against the world. The world is fucked up. We're in this together. And so the synchronicities, the connections here are so fucking exciting. And honestly, I have to pause and be like, okay, are you going crazy, Becky? Are you manic? I go back to that old story. I actually think the universe and maybe a little bit of my ghost dad is coming in, but it's, again, I question myself on this stuff, which is part of this story as well, is I get so fucking excited. I'm wow, it all makes sense. So you guys are going to get to follow me on this journey. I'm going to hopefully reach out to some of these people who are still around, were connected to Artie Laing, and see if I can get some of their stories as well. So stay tuned, and look up Artie Laing, Laing. I don't know a lot about him, but the shit that he was doing, forgive my French, but the stuff that he was doing, I think we need to bring back, and we need to be re-talking about it again, because the world's more crazy than we are. The society is more crazy than we are, and we need to be aware of that. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this interview.
So my name is Michael Amelia. I'm a wildlife photographer. I do some stuff with conservation efforts, autism awareness. I've done work with Vincent's Clubhouse, different group homes in the area. My history in the area goes back before the fires in 1998. My grandparents retired here, and as a military brat, that's why I became so familiar with the Palm Coast area. But I didn't move down here until 2016. Now, my career field in Virginia was working with at-risk youth. Now, I say at-risk youth, but I really worked with juvenile delinquents who were mixed up with the court system. So they were in a locked classroom, of a locked hallway, of a locked pod, in a high school. They didn't have a choice. They had to work with me to get their freedom in the hallway. But so working with those individuals, having a bit of my own transformation when I moved here, I returned to the career field in working with individuals with profound autism and the EBD center at Matanzas. And my approach changed to like an anxiety first approach. Just handling somebody for the anxiety that they have and then moving on from there.
Okay.
So I've had major successes, but some of my successes are stories that are other people's stories to tell. And so whether or not I got somebody through the rest of their schooling, or everything that they've been able to do outside of the school system, graduating from EBD programs.
Yeah.
Even though I helped, it's not my story.
Yeah.
I'm kind of clandestine about it.
Okay, but what about your personal story? Okay, so this is your professional, but they're so interrelated, right? I mean, you're good at what you do, I think, because of your neurodivergence and because you claimed it. So are you willing to talk about that story and the addiction stuff in the past and all of that part of it?
Most definitely. So my neurodivergence is just original ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And I was originally diagnosed when I was 5 or 6 years old. Not a huge problem. The doctors just knew oh, something's screwy about this kid.
Right.
But all it means, and being able to be raised that way, is I knew that I learned in special ways. And so being a champion for somebody who has neurodivergence and being successful is a good way that you can sort of lead other kids who are dealing with the same battles. But the sobriety and the addiction, so the alcohol recovery, is really when my approach changed from me and you are struggling with the same issues. I am not making the same decisions you are. And it changed to, you have anxiety. Let's work with your anxiety. Let's get you to a better place and raise your emotional intelligence so that you broaden your world perspective rather than me make the decision for you.
Okay. Okay. And so was anxiety like a core part of your addiction issues, or was it more the ADHD kind of thing?
So my ADHD unfortunately came with major depression. Not that anybody should ever brag about a diagnosis. And it doesn't absolve me of personal choice with my alcoholism, because nobody should ever self-medicate. But what it is mostly a statistic. I became a statistic because ADHD people with all of their processing issues always try to slow themselves down in some way.
Okay.
And so making those tough decisions and really mistreating myself for a very long period of time, going through alcohol recovery, I had to deal with the clarity and the ADHD and almost relearn how to live. And so I was able to quit consuming alcohol 4 months prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
And so then when the world shut down, I had a running start, because I don't think I would have been able to quit drinking if I was faced with the shutdown day one.
Okay. So you self-medicated. So it was to help you slow down. Did you feel like you didn't fit in? Like, was that a big issue too? Because I know, like, you've told me that I'm probably ADD or ADHD, right? Like, you sense that from me. Not that you're giving me an official diagnosis, but
Most especially with the way that you write, because we sort of write in the same manner, and the way that you spread out your projects. So I see you work on 3 projects at once. So 8 people with ADHD, ADD, we have 4 streams of process. So the way that individuals with autism or monotropic, they'll focus on one thing at one time. Individuals with ADHD have 4 streams of information going at once. So I see the projects you work on a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And I see you keep time for yourself with your nature walks.
Yeah.
And so I recognize the process from somewhere because I did the exact same thing.
Okay. So you have this addiction. You're going through sobriety. Did you go through AA, which is the kind of the typical route? What did you do?
So I didn't use AA. So because of the pandemic, everybody stopped having in-person meetings. And as a person with ADHD, I would need to be in person. And so I used all the psychologists and psychiatrists started using those free consultations because they had to adapt to the online environment.
Right.
And so basically I would use psychiatrists. I would call people from St. Johns County because I live in Flagler County. And I would just use those psychiatrists to be like, hey, am I crazy? Here's what I'm going through. Here's where I'm at in sobriety. And for the most part, people were compassionate because I explained my background in education.
Yeah.
And so they'd say like, no, you're really going through what recovery is. Like, you're okay. Don't worry. You're not going crazy.
So tell me about, are you comfortable telling me a little bit about what that felt like?
Oh, it was second puberty. It felt like a second puberty. And so lucky enough during the pandemic, I knew Rattlesnake Island at Matanzas Inlet had a broken access road. So after Hurricane Matthew, they never fixed the access road back there. So from 2019, which was the date that I quit drinking on, I was able to go to a preserve that nobody knew that you could drive to and just have it out with myself. So yeah, the growing pains, you cry. You cry for almost no reason. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I put myself in the position to go through it. So I am very comfortable with the things that I went through.
So that's not an easy thing to go from a drinker to a non-drinker, especially when you have all this like neurodivergency and all that stuff going on. Like, what got you through? Like, why did you not just go back and drink again?
Photography.
Okay.
So especially you think about having an anxiety issue, the grounding technique of 5 things you can see, 4 things you can say. If you would put a camera in your hand and you start taking pictures of the 5 things you can see. So this all really started for the photography was Rattlesnake Island, a grounding technique, put a camera in my hand. These are the things that are making you happy right now. So remember that you're happy. And so in early sobriety, not realizing how you're going to feel 6 months after when your brain finally gives in and starts its own recovery. What if you're going to be miserable? What if you're going to be a cranky person? So at least I had the pictures at that time that would remind me, this made you happy.
Right. Okay. And talk a little bit about how that you applied that to what you do with the kids.
Oh, because most of the kids that I work with are really going through trauma, especially when I worked with group homes and profound autism. And so knowing that the process that they're going through involves trauma, that patience is the answer no matter what. Profound autism, especially because if you meet them with anger, you're just going to be met with anger. There's no productive use to going into a situation with profound autism and having an ego about an emergency situation. And so it's just been helpful for all of that.
I love talking to you because it's like you're not one of these like I was telling you earlier, these people who are like, oh, I'm going to go on this spiritual quest. I'm going to do my shadow work. I'm going to go study Zen Buddhism. I'm going to go meditate. You just freaking started going to Rattlesnake Island and doing this.
Well, yeah, so more, if it was going to be anything, it would be like Aboriginal walkabout therapies. And so if you're feeling some type of way, go ahead and hike 20 miles and find out how you feel the next day. And so being able to work things out on the move, especially as a neurodivergent person with ADHD, that's why we do better in nature with processes going on around us.
Yeah.
And so when I had an issue, there were weeks that I was just going out there hiking 20 miles, editing those pictures, and doing it again the next day because I felt it needed to commit to my sobriety.
Yeah.
And so I'll climb a bridge. I'll hike 4 miles to get a sunrise.
Yeah.
At that time, it was compulsive, but I didn't tell anybody it was my coping mechanism for sobriety. So it's not that I got away with it. It's that I matured and changed and really went after being a wildlife photographer rather than working out my own stuff.
And you said you also lost weight at this time too, right?
Yeah, so I started wildlife photography at 220 pounds. I quickly hiked down to a 6-pack. That's when I was working at Publix in the hammock for a brief time. And so I worked myself down to just the most toned body that I've ever had before the age of 40. And like I'd go to the beach and not understand what people were looking at. Like I had always been used to being chubby, so people wouldn't look past me. I'm not bad looking,
right?
But I could run around without my shirt on and not be noticed,
right?
And so now I'm complaining about a very good attention, so I'm not going to complain about it.
Aim like socially acceptable.
Well, and people started looking at me different. I'm like, "What are you staring at?" Like, okay.
You're like, "Oh, I'm well built." Like,
yeah. Like I had to have the talk with myself. Like, you need to dress down. You need to dress for what you look like now, and
that is the weirdest problem to have. It's like not that again, that goes with my podcast. Like, that's just weird. Like most people are like, I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get enlightened. I'm going to be a better person. And you're just like, I'm just going to fucking take pictures and see what happens.
Well, and that's what everybody's motivation. And I'm just trying to, everybody wants to be something. I just want to be. Like, I just want to be at peace. I just want to do my hikes, to do all this. Sometimes there are things that need fighting, and you see me do that a lot with autism awareness or advocacy. But most of the time, I just want to chase birds. I don't want to track beach damage.
Yeah.
I just like doing the things that keep me even.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I do want to ask a little more. Did you have trauma as a kid?
No, so I work with at-risk youth because I was an at-risk youth. I got involved with legal issues, dealt with them extensively, all before the age of 18. Because luckily, after 18, I started studying criminal justice, criminology, and psychology to enter the field that I'm in. And so I studied criminology, psychology, transferred to George Mason University, got a job as an armed contract law enforcement. An armed contract civilian at Bowling Air Force Base, protecting the base that housed the DIA. And I decided that arm of law enforcement was not for me. I needed to be closer to the rehabilitation side of it.
Yeah.
And so that's why working with different programs like the EBD Center, profound autism in group homes, that's really what my calling was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you work with the most difficult of the most difficult kids, it sounds like. Is that true?
In some cases, but I wouldn't. Complicated kids.
Okay.
But so working in group homes, I worked with East Coast Rehabilitation Options, and they're more kind of infamous than anything else. But I also do work in group homes like that. Kids that have kind of made the news in the county for nefarious reasons, for going after their teachers. But for me, it's always about, working with them as a neurodivergent and saying, I'm more like you than we are like them. and so it gives me a step up in working with somebody with profound autism or autism and EBD.
Yeah.
Because they see me as an ally and not an authority.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because especially autism and oppositional defiance disorder is a tricky thing to traverse, but that's kind of what
Okay, so this is totally what I think about too, is this idea of like, because you know, like you've seen psychiatrists and stuff in the past, and sometimes there's an authority level, like there's like, I am the wise one and you are the screwed up one, and you're coming at it from a very different angle. it seems pretty effective too. What do you think about that?
Well, you're messed up. I'm messed up. We're all messed up. Like we're just trying to struggle, and so everybody has their own struggle.
Yeah.
And so it is more important to learn about other people's struggles.
Yeah.
So that you can then carry and understand how they go about things.
Yeah.
And so I even try when working with EBD, emotional and behavioral disorders, I try to get them volunteering with profound autism. Now it's worked here and there, but really when you're adding profound autism and meltdowns and an EBD student gets kind of scared. But that's one of the things that you want, because you cannot intimidate a student into doing the right thing.
Right.
You can bring them to make their own choices.
Right. And how do you do that? How do you bring them to make their own choice?
By really raising emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And so it's funny that the term is increasing optimism.
Okay.
But really, you got to remind them that, one, for the kids that I work with, to be kids again.
Okay.
That what
Okay.
they're going through is just temporary, that they need their confidence back, everything like that.
Yeah.
So you do it through ways of making things fun, educational, and serious.
Yeah.
Now, taking them to things like a water park, because I can swim like a fish, that's kind of easy. I can impress them and ease building a rapport.
Yeah.
But having them make the correct decisions involves a process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work close with them, building their confidence, and getting them to think outside of their exact worldview.
Okay. And you're effective with your techniques?
Oh, I would say so. If you're talking about measuring successes and the success of other people, I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been hard fought.
Yeah.
And so I like to be vague about some things, because there are stark realities about, especially profound autism, that 90% of my job is fun, and to make things fun and to have things be a party. That 10% where things are kind of like that meltdown area, that's me to worry about. So even taking kids to a group tour at Fort Matanzas Park, the park rangers there knew, like, if there's a meltdown, we got you. We'll stay out of your way and let you handle it.
Right. Right.
So that's why I
Right.
have a special relationship with some of the park rangers.
Right.
Too.
Right. So will you tell me what a meltdown looks like?
So it would be different based on every individual, because each one can even be triggered by their own personal things. It can be artificial light. It can be socks that don't feel right. It'd be things that don't feel right in a room.
Yeah.
And so with profound autism, working with profound autism and ADHD, me being able to process things faster than most, I can usually figure out what they have an issue with. And I can deal with their issue before it becomes a huge issue. And so that's been my secret with profound autism. Most people don't have that edge. And so from that, you get precursors to where they're feeling uncomfortable in their skin. So they might start hitting themselves. They might start hitting the person that they're closest to where then it might start, unfortunately, like headbanging against the wall. So things that don't make sense to us, or angry, somebody with profound autism that can't verbalize how they feel is going to do it through action.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, are people with profound autism less connected to their bodies? Is that part of it?
It's not so much less connected to their body. It's just they have more of a hard time communicating. So if we had a toothache and there was no way to make the toothache hurt, and we weren't able to say to anybody,
Yeah.
my tooth hurts,
Yeah.
banging our head might make it feel better.
Right.
Figuring out the exact reasons that a meltdown are happening are more important than sitting there and fighting for authority while it's going on. You need to figure out the why, because the why can get you around it and can get you back to not a healing space, but a space where they can feel comfortable.
Right.
The healing space, you have to sort of prepare.
Right. 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 Okay. So something I think about a lot is what I call the safe container, is feeling safe. And it's not necessarily an environment. It's the person, like the leader. Like, do you know what I mean by safe container? Like feeling like, okay, Mike's got my back. He's watching out for me. He's gonna understand me if things get rough. Like, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So safe can be a person or a place that's not exactly your home, but your Malacompra trails,
Yeah.
you'd already feel safer around because you know the ins and outs and the twists and turns.
Exactly.
And so people can also be your safe space because, especially being out there, you can have an eye out for somebody else.
Yeah.
So somebody to watch your back while you're moving forward.
Tell me about this superpower you have. Like, okay, like we're talking about like neurodivergence can be a curse, but it can also be a superpower. First, talk about that.
As the collective grown of neurodivergent. So when you call it a superpower, people do get upset because people do deal with their curse. That's why we mentioned before, I got sobriety on my side.
Yes.
So
Right.
any learning disabled or neurodivergent person would groan when they hear somebody saying it's a superpower.
Right.
When you add something like sobriety, you go through sobriety and realize you don't have major depression.
Yeah.
You start to work through your ADHD.
Yeah.
It becomes a superpower because I've gained the clarity that I needed to actually manage my ADHD. So it would be more like Batman. So Batman is somebody who carries more of a curse that you have to figure out the way that you learn.
Yeah.
You have to figure out the way that you handle anxiety. And if you can't figure out the things that work with you, you're going to be cursed.
Yeah.
And so that's when people call it a superpower with people who are struggling with the same things, especially ADHD, ADD, depression. To say that once you figure it out, it does become a superpower.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it goes away though.
No, not at all. Learning the way that you learn means you begin to manage it. So things will still flare up, but you can see it in the way that I hate using neurotypical. Yes, allistic. ALLISTIC. An allistic brain is a normal functioning brain to where the person doesn't have ADHD or is on the spectrum. And so you see the way that they sit down comparative to the way that we sit down, and the way that we perceive the nature around us. It's just a different frequency.
Yeah.
So sounds crazy, but it only sounds crazy to them.
Exactly. Okay, so what do you recommend? Like, how do we get past this? Like, it's cool you're working with young people because you're teaching them early. You didn't figure it out till you were a little bit older. How old were you during the pandemic and when you were going through sobriety?
Oh, so I'm 40 now, so I was 34, 35.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And so what I did was I was able to sober up and continue a previous career. That's why I said briefly that I worked at Publix. It was between teaching and going back to what I do now is family resource care as a live-in kind of caretaker, but it's like being an EBD teacher that lives with you. And so I'm very fortunate for my current job, but it is really just trying to figure out how to get other kids to carry their neurodivergencies better because they're handling neurodivergencies, trauma, and being in a program.
Right.
Yeah. And so being a living example, even though you don't get to recovery as being a living example.
Say, what do you mean by that?
If you're in alcohol recovery, you've gotten yourself there. I'm not saying that you have to clean up your own mess, but for the personal choices that I made in my alcoholism, once I entered into alcohol recovery, I cannot deny that I made my own choices.
Right.
Yeah. And so I moved on from it. Yes.
Yeah.
But I made the choice to do what I did.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you say to kids who are struggling, who are angry, who are hypersensitive, maybe empathic, maybe just sensitive to the world? What do you say to them to get through this?
Really just feel it. So one of the biggest things is the biggest thing about a meltdown is the recovery. It's not even the meltdown itself. It's about how do I get this to stop and then get them back to feeling in a normal spot where they can heal. And so dealing with the recovery is some of the most important part because of what the situations that they're going through. Brendan Deppa had an issue in the EBD center of Matanzas High School with, I believe, a substitute paraprofessional in which an electronic video game was taken. And he had an anxiety attack in which he beat the teacher.
Yeah.
And so there's no denying what he did, because especially working in group homes, we don't try to dress up the reality. But I worked in the group home that he resided in. And so I missed him by a little bit. And I genuinely feel that I'm sorry. I'm upset that I missed him.
Yeah.
I wish I could have taught him coping mechanisms
Yeah.
before getting to what he got to.
Yeah.
But working with individuals like that, you really get to get a control of your emotions, because your emotions are going to dictate what happens next.
Okay, explain that more. You mean as the care provider, you have to control your emotions?
Yeah, most definitely. Being able to do it in the home environment, dealing with somebody's meltdowns, is seeing them trying to have the police come to get Baker wrapped. And so really you're trying to diffuse from that while keeping everybody safe. Yes, I've been in 12, 15 restrained day homes to where I come through and there's no restraints. But I do it by slowing down and explaining the logic of a situation to somebody who struggles with logic.
Okay.
So that's why Mr. Lopez, especially meeting him at FPC, but knowing of his work, that's why he's.
And so tell me again what he did. So after all this happened and the student got incarcerated, right? I mean, he had to go to trial and it was public and all this stuff. And
he was taken out of his group home. He had to go to jail. And so jail before prison, because I think he's still serving some time in prison. He had 5 years, and this was some years ago now. So Mr. Lopez, once Brendan Depo went into jail, he had to continue his schooling. But nobody was willing to step into a classroom with a 6'5" fellow who beat up a teacher.
Right.
But understanding, so Mr. Lopez understanding that it's not like that. That you go in there, it's about teaching a process first, not anger, not combative, not me versus you. Working with people like that, or Mrs. Flores from Vincent's Clubhouse, working with individuals like that are what brought me to where I am, where I can make my differences and see the exact ways that I need.
Okay, so what final advice do you have for people? So my listeners, I think, are, when I call it living weird, but I think really the way weird is to me is neurodivergence. It's being different in this world. For me, it's being like you say, like the ADD or the like highly empathic kind of thing. I have kind of this weird spiritual connection that I just don't really understand. It doesn't quite fit in. So everybody's got their weird, right? We've all got our flavor of weird. So what do you recommend for people who are maybe like in the earlier phases where they're still going like, am I going crazy? Am I like, can I do this? They're more in the like still drinking or still struggling or on their way out, but they're scared.
Oh, I would say embrace it. Embrace it. I fall into the categories most people that got sober say my only regret is not doing it sooner.
Yeah.
So as far as the sobriety, all it is do it as soon as you can, as important as you can, as safe as you can. And so once you get to that, then you can start to really struggle with your neurodivergencies and figure out how you can control that. So it's hard if you're a self-medicating drinker, because you're trying to go through a process to then figure out what you're drinking for. And so it's a struggle, yes, but I'm 100% proof that it's worth it.
Right.
Because I never saw my life coming to being on the news, to doing what I do, to working with the groups that I do. And so it's just because I finally made that choice, but to put it down.
Yeah. And so you found it through photography, through, like getting gators in your lens and taking pictures and hiking and all that stuff. Not everybody's going to find it that way.
Well, so if you got anxiety, or if you have issues with groups of people, and you got a camera and there are pictures that you really want past a group of people, those pictures are going to matter more than you to that group of people.
Okay.
So you'll work yourself into it, walking past that group, because now those pictures are more important. So you'll see past them,
Yeah.
as long as you work yourself up to it.
Yeah.
And so you can do stuff like that with storm chasing, to where you're now flooding your brain with adrenaline, running from a hurricane.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying everybody it's gonna be the answer,
Right.
but it'll make you feel different after.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Get used to.
Yeah. And and for me, I think it was almost the opposite. Like I had to isolate and be alone and like actually like stare at my demons and feel them. I probably was the same thing in a different way, but like I had just had to get really still and realize that I could survive. Like I wasn't going to die if I'm by myself. And for me, it was like the process of living alone. Like I grew up codependent, and it's like to live alone and like no one's going to save you.
Nobody's coming for you.
No one's coming for you. Exactly.
But there's a freedom in that. So
Yes.
as much as there's nobody coming for you, and you with the codependency, you want that.
Yeah.
There's a freedom in nobody coming for you.
Yeah, and I'm not quite fully there yet. Like I'm still like, no, I still want somebody to come for me.
Well, it takes time in finding the right person, and you find most people struggle with where. But if you find people in the woods.
Growing up from that psychiatric model where anything out of that narrow bandwidth was psychotic, or, you know, like even like, you know, being spiritual and feeling God when I'm in the trees, you know?
Bipolar is perfect, because for ADHD, girls would always get misdiagnosed as bipolar because you would be seen as opinionated for having your own thoughts. So they say, well, no, she's not ADHD. She's got to be bipolar.
Right.
Only boys are ADHD.
Right.
No, it's not like that. Bipolar is a very, very different disorder compared to ADHD.
Yeah.
It's just that when you're opinionated, you get labeled. So it's not, the histories aren't fair.
Yeah.
So I get to walk around being like, oh, I'm this happy ADHD guy who's never had an issue.
Yeah.
That's because I'm white male.
Exactly. Like a female who's energetic, who's confident. Yeah, I think they might have labeled it that way. They're like, oh, and like, again, like I talk about in my first podcast, is that I have a large bandwidth of emotion. And I think you sit down with a psychiatrist who wants everybody in this very narrow bandwidth, and they're like, oh yeah, well, she's clearly nuts.
Oh, you must need mood stabilizers.
Right, exactly. No, but now that I understand my superpower, it's like, no, I just know now that I need to go home and release and just be by myself for a little while. It's like, for me, being out is like the energizing part. I need to go home and just be isolated and just like get under my blankets, which again, maybe looks like depression. It's not depression. It's called like plugging your phone into the charger, you know?
Finding your own calm and steadying yourself. So not even if it's laying there and sleeping, if you're just laying there and decompressing, so I doing live-in work, I work for 3.5 days straight. So that's 84 hours if there are emergencies.
Yeah.
So after those days, I'm not doing photography on the last day that I'm working. I get to my bed and I don't cry, but no, I just sit there and decompress and exhale.
But crying crying is not a bad thing. I know, like in our culture, especially for men, it's like, no, sometimes you just need to like freaking just like physically purge it out. Like, yeah. So what do you do? What do you do in those times? Like,
I get the way that men are, but I deal with so many stark realities dealing with individuals and group homes. And so you get those relationships that those kids aren't, and I say kids, mostly adults with disabilities. But they're never going to form those bonds with anybody else. So to me, if you don't cry in the stuff that I do, that makes you a weirdo. So I understand people saying like, oh, you can't believe that you cried. Like, most people wouldn't step into the houses that I work in.
Yeah.
So I'm good with being judged for that.
You have been listening to the Living Weird podcast with me, Becky Magnolia. If you're listening on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you're listening on a different platform, feel free to follow along and find out what happens on this unfolding podcast. You can also find out more about me and the books that I've written at www.livingweird.com. Thank you.